in the Laker game this year. At the end of the first quarter, he gave one of his. He had to do an interview, and he said they were asked about the shooting in the floor space. He said, "Well, if you have Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and Joe Harris, we wouldn't be a problem." They talk like excuse-making losers
Right.
but they behave, and the fans behave like a franchise that has accomplished something. So the reality is, in the
For,
2.5 years these
but
guys have been here,
but I think
we've
that's
won
where
one
the
playoff
disconnect is,
series,
though.
and we're currently the eighth seed.
Yeah, no, I think that's where the disconnect is with between fans and Steven, you can tell me if you think I'm wrong about this, but some of the fan base is here just to watch Kyrie play. No matter how much, win, lose, or draw, they're just Kyrie fans. Then there's another group of fans that feel like as long as we're relevant, as long as they talk about us on First Take every day, as long as the best players are choosing to come play with us, nothing else matters. There's a group of fans that want to be relevant. And then, you know, like for me, what I want is I want to win. I want this team to represent the place that I'm from, the place that I love, the place that's a part of my identity and part of who I am, and has welcomed the Haitian side of my family to these shores. And I want to see a championship for the city. But I think the reason why it's so hard to talk to each other right now, especially when everybody isn't like, if we win a championship, everybody gets what they want, right? But some of us don't really care about the championship. We could take it or leave it. Like, do you notice that, Stephen? Like, are you aware of this phenomenon, or am I making it up?
No, it's definitely real, especially the stand part. We just got rid of all the James Harden stands. They all migrated to Philly now, thank God. But we still have the Kyrie stands. And I'll say this about even the divide with the fan base, it's almost like it's a crossroads where like some fans think like, oh, if we just have everybody healthy for the last 5 games, that the talent will just overwhelm and we can just go into the playoffs like that. Me personally, I'd like to at least win some games before that with everybody. To me, the only antidote to losing that's on this team is KD. KD's the only one. I saw him go out there with 4 rookies and beat Philadelphia and beat Toronto and beat teams. He's the only one. So when he comes back, that's what can get rid of the stench. But until then, Bam, to your point, this is like a 500 team at best that can win on some good nights. And like I said, the crossroads with the fan base, me, myself, I don't want to take these games lightly. I don't want to it's a shame that tomorrow is an uphill battle now, because that's a team that's directly in front of us that we could have taken a game from already instead
And,
of having to give up a game.
and Steve, to a further extent, why on earth should I watch that damn game? Or why should anybody pay to go to that game tomorrow night?
You don't. They don't give a fuck. Why should we give a fuck?
I don't want to. I don't want to go watch. I guess he's off the team now, but the Javon Carter, James Johnson, David Duke Jr. lineups.
It's worse because we
I
let
don't want
go
to
of
see that
Javon
shit.
Carter. We let go of Javon Carter. We don't have Javon Carter, and we're ramping up. We're ramping up
Dragic.
Dragic, and so it's it's gonna
If
be
the
rough
Nets
tomorrow.
win, if the Nets do win this year, they basically spit in what everything we think we know about team sports.
Everything
Even
about
to a
75
greater
years
extent,
75 years of basketball flush it down the toilet. We just completely made a whole new way of being in sports.
to a worse extent even from last year, because at least last year felt like a championship run when we had even the big two, like 2 of the 3 in there. It felt like a championship season. If this was to end up in a championship season, I've completely lost what a championship season is supposed to feel like.
Right.
Because this has become some of the least fun, like moments, like long portions of moments throughout a season. I've been
even at 29-16, it didn't feel right.
Yeah. No,
It didn't feel right.
You know, a lot of Nets Twitter are not season ticket holders, but there's a few. Obviously, you know, the Brooklyn Brigade and those guys. But I don't understand how they feel like they're not being loyal fans if they're not complaining about this shit. Like, you paid your hard-earned money and you've bought tickets in a city where you can barely afford to live, much less buy tickets to an NBA game, and you're there every game, and you're watching a team that is not the one that was in the pictures of the team that was in the email that you got to buy those tickets. You don't feel gypped a little bit? Like, should they?
We have a New York team without a New York style fan base, and I always bring this example. I brought it up on this podcast many times. The 2012 Giants opened the season as defending Super Bowl champions versus the Dallas Cowboys. We're losing at halftime, and there was a smattering of boos as they ran off the field. That's how we are supposed to. The Nets fans don't demand enough from this team.
Right.
Transparency. We don't demand enough from our beat writers. Those guys haven't broke a story. The only thing they tell me is the injury report. That's it.
Right.
We get nothing from the team. We get nothing from the writers. We're sitting here. We have no clue what's going on with Joe Harris. We've got no clue when Ben Simmons is going to play. Kyrie Irving plays whenever he feels like it. We have no idea when Kevin's coming back. No idea when Dragic's coming back. This is not how you win a title. It's just not. And it almost feels like they're willing to just say, you know, we'll use the rest of the year for experience. What happens next year?
It bothers me that we can't have a conversation about it. Like, you have to almost be afraid to say, yo, this is bullshit. And because really it's supposed to be like a former player. Like, I can understand if I'm sitting here going, this is bullshit. I'm tired of watching this team. Fuck the Nets. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But let's say I got angry one day and I said that, right? It's supposed to be someone like Richard Jefferson or someone who works for the team. But it'll be the Nets fans who will just be like, you're panicking. You're this. You're that. And I'm fighting for you guys. I'm lobbying for what you should want too. A championship. Excellence. I think we do. You know what? I'm not going to say I deserve it. Maybe I don't deserve it as a Brooklyn Net fan of 9.5 years. But still.
To your point, Yves, like, I'll give you a quick example about how Net fans, it's almost like they wait for, I don't want to say permission, but like they want to wait till it's like okay to like say something. Like with James Harden, it was always like, oh, he's just getting back, he's getting his injury, give him time, I know he's been inconsistent. And then he gets traded and he's like, oh, you know what, he does suck, he's not going to come back this year.
Hey, thank you. Anybody who said those things beforehand was critical. Oh, you're a fake. Keep that same energy when he starts playing like an all-star again. Yeah, guess what? Of course I will, because I'm a Net fan. I'm mad when they're bad, and I'm happy when they're good. You know. But now everybody, oh, thank God we don't got to give him that contract. It's really just a hypocritical fan base.
You're right, and there's like this thing of like where you can't have a nuanced opinion. I've always wanted the Nets to get younger, faster, with longer, more athletic players. I've been advocating for that for a very, very long time. Guys, somebody's getting feedback, so mute. But I just want the team to be accountable. Did you guys watch the Sean Marks interview? How does no one in that interview, how does the press conference ask him about Joe Harris. That's a failure in journalism. How could no one ask, what is the process that you're using to evaluate when Ben Simmons is going to play? They let Sean Marks go up there and say, he's going to happen soon. Sooner or later. They were like, all right, that's the answer. Let me write that down. It's weird, right? Like, that's not normal, right, Steven?
If the Nets were the Knicks, they would be getting plastered all over the place.
I don't think the Knicks have. I don't think the Knicks have those type of guys either.
The fans, they have the type of fans though.
Right.
The Nets are moving in anonymity, where it's like there's not enough of us for them to talk about it on sports radio enough.
No, I think there's a lot of us. It's just our culture is fucked up. We don't believe in one thing, and I can see why. Because, like, look, Bam, your family, and Sam's family, Nets fandom goes back to the New York Nets. Then, I almost feel like the New Jersey Nets group is even a different breed, because the New Jersey Nets fans were a minority in their own state. There was more Knicks fans in New Jersey. Like, when I read those demographics, I was shocked. There were more Knicks fans in New Jersey the whole time the Nets were there. So they lose the team. The team comes here. But some of them stay, and some of them become Knicks fans, like the famous Dolan J. Trump. So it's just an odd mishmash. And then you have the group of my group. Then you have some people who came in because of Jeremy Lin and stayed. Then you got other people who were, who are just Brooklyn fans. And I think because we're such a mishmash of all those things that we don't necessarily have one unified culture. We kind of all believe in different things and want different things. Is that a fair assessment, Stephen?
I would say so. I mean, you saying just what you said does bring back memories, because I live in Jersey, and I grew up with the Jason Kidd era, and to have all that winning in Jersey for those early Kidd years up until like the late Vince Carter years, but yet to have nobody like even locally talk about you was very damn frustrating, especially with her. And it was like you said, we were just a few minority fans where it was frustrating for that. But we're definitely passionate, which is probably why we go at each other sometimes, just because we're so passionate.
No, it's weird when someone has to tell me they're Net fan bona fides. I was a Net fan since the swamp, and then someone like Bam could be like, shit, my family's been Nets fans in Long Island since Nassau Coliseum in the championship. So I think that's why we're so weird. Bam, you got a theory?
I'm not sure you'd want me to share it. I think the main thing here, we got to keep the main thing.
Okay.
And I think the fan base got myself included, got very happy that we got Kyrie, we got KD. It was unprecedented for this franchise to land those types of players willingly. Typically, they had come here because they were under contract and traded, and we're like, well, shit, I got to stay here. And then they always re-signed kids, the Vince Carters, the Darren Williams. Those guys were traded here unwillingly and wound up staying.
Right.
This was two guys being like, we're going to go there. And could have picked,
Anyway.
better, more historically relevant franchises. But they chose us. So that honeymoon period lasted a long time. But like some Net fans, that honeymoon period ran out, and some of them are still. And to me, it's like, all right, well, like I said before, we're now 2.5 years into this thing. So we knew we were sacrificing the first year. The team got worse the first year from the prior year. Last year, great regular season, came up short in the playoffs, and we're in 8th